that will. Hello, my name is Ava Rovero, and I'm the founder and the executive director of the National Coalition Against Prescription Drug Abuse. And we want to welcome today to a lived experience interview that we are going to conduct with Debora Killeen. Debora and I have known each other for a number of years, and we've done a lot of things together in the past that have been related to substance use disorder and community education. Debora, I just want to thank you so much for being with us today, because you have so much to share. You have had a long level of experience with substance use disorder in your family, and I know that you've learned a lot along the way, and I'm really looking forward to you sharing some of those learnings so it can hopefully help other families that are out there that may be struggling with this situation. So we really appreciate your willingness to share. And I know you've always been really open and honest about that, which I think helps to break down that stigma that is so important for us to work to break down. So people are feeling comfortable about getting help, and they're not feeling so bad about their condition. They recognize that it is a disease, that it isn't a moral failing and all that. So joining us today are three of our youth ambassadors with NCAPDA. So we've got Sanjana, Zainab, and Reva, and they are going to be the ones conducting the interview per se. Debora, they'll be asking the questions. And then of course, I'll come back at the very end and ask any others that I feel like I just have burning and have to have answered, and we'll call it a day after that. So Sanjana, you're the leader for this interview, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Debora. It's a pleasure having an opportunity to talk to you and learning a lot of important things. And I would like to start off this interview by asking you to talk about yourself and what experience you had in supporting your son with substance use disorder.
Well, thank you, Sanjana. I am a 63-year-old retired interior designer and business owner, and also a wife of almost 40 years. I'm also a mother of 3 sons, ages 37, 34, and 30. And I have currently ventured back into the workforce as a youth development coordinator for at-risk teens, ages 12 to 17, where my experiences and strength from my past will be valuable in instilling boundaries and consequences, coping, and life skills in these youth. And I'm working with others who struggle with substance abuse or mental health challenges. It also helps me to stay on track in using the tools I gained in working on myself and to make better and healthier choices, and not only in loving others, but also in taking care of myself. And so I found that this disease affects the whole family, and not only does the addicted need support, but so do the friends and family members of the addicted loved one. And so I chose the 12-step program of Nar-Anon to gain the tools and a better understanding. And I've been involved for 16 years now by attending in-person and Zoom online meetings. And so Nar-Anon is not a religious program, but a spiritual program. And so, which has helped me to build my strength and courage to change myself and to put the focus only on the only thing that I can control, which is me. And so by making that change in me, everyone around me has changed. So.
Kind of going forward, I just wanted you to tell us a little bit about your family member that suffered with the substance use disorder, and kind of touching on how this affected his life, how it affected the people around him, and how you guys kind of helped him through certain treatment options and other related things.
Sure, thank you. Well, my addicted loved one was prescribed a pain medication from a local provider after being hit by a car on his bicycle at the age of 11. And after being abruptly stopped with the medication by the provider, which was an opiate pain medication, He was not feeling or functioning normal and began to, shortly thereafter, his behavior changed. And he started, we started having money missing, valuables were missing, his school grades were suffering, his interest dwindled pretty much, and he started secluding himself in his room, started sleeping a lot. He was defiant, his friendships changed, he became dishonest, he had no respect for himself or others, he started losing weight, he had poor hygiene, and then a mother of a close friend, obviously when they change friendships, they lose some of those friendships that they had previous, they start to gravitate towards new friends. And in doing that, my son then met a mother of a new close friend who began to supply my son with the drug and his drug needs. And obviously a drug no mother would ever dream would be available, especially in a suburban community with, blue ribbon schools, highly educated adults, low crime rates, plenty of activities, and where there's homes that are, no home under $1 million, but obviously Oxycontin and then heroin is available. And so in doing that and finding out there was realizing their substance abuse disorder obviously began with the first pill, which was prescribed at the age of 11 for my son. And obviously he's still working on his program even at 30 years old. So it's been approximately about 19 years that he has been suffering with the substance abuse disorder.
I think that's very interesting, and we can learn a lot from his story. And I could never imagine what it would be to be like in his place, but I know that we can all learn from it.
So you mentioned earlier that you believe that the change starts with you more. And so what personal coping skills have you developed to manage through those issues?
As far as, let's see, I'm sorry, I just made a mistake here. As far as, okay, let me get to, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, no problem. So, you mentioned that you want to change yourself before you try to help your son, right? So what personal coping skills have you developed to manage through those issues that you've overcome?
Sure. So by using the 12 steps of Nar-Anon, the Nar-Anon program, I've also reached out to sponsor and also other supporting members of that program. And then by taking care of myself and keeping the focus on me, I've done meditation, journaling, self-discipline by learning to not react and to have a more positive perspective. That's pretty much my support system has been my Nar-Anon program.
Thank you for sharing that. I am sure it helps a lot of communities and parents who have experienced this kind of issues in the society. And in a more broader way, what have you found to be the most challenging issues you have encountered in providing support to your family members?
Let's see, I'm sorry. We got out of the line, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so just go ahead and say that, because I kind of did some little notes here. So I just wanted to make sure I'm on the right question here. So can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, sure. What have you found to be the most challenging issues you have encountered in providing support to your family members?
I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. I'm sorry. Help me with that again.
Yeah, we can edit this, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, where you're struggling here to find what question we're on. So I believe what we did is we moved from 4, which was the personal coping skills, And the next question was going to be about the Naranon group, but you've already kind of touched on that. Would you want to say anything more? Because we said, tell us about Naranon and the support that family members can expect to find if they attend a local meeting. So it maybe does take it a little bit further than, so shall we go ahead and ask that question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so maybe just rephrase it to say, okay, well, you've spoken about Naranon. Can you maybe share a little bit more about what support family members can expect to find? Like, what does a meeting look like? Maybe something like that. Does that make sense? And then, yeah, so go ahead and.
The problem was Riva accidentally asked the fourth question, which was my question, and then I tried to cover the third question. So it kind of fell back. I'm sorry, Debora, it's all a bit messy.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So I think we can go to 5 though, can't we? Don't you think, Sanjana? So just revise it a little bit as I suggested, and then we can just ask 5 and move forward from there.
Actually, the question number 3 is pretty valuable, I think.
Did we not ask that then yet?
Right.
Yeah, we kind of skipped question 3, so then I went back to it.
Yeah, let's do that. I think you should do that one first, and then
I agree.
lead us into the question of Naranon. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Yeah, don't worry, this will all be edited out.
Okay, so is she going to ask the question number 3?
Oh, I can ask it again. Yeah.
Yeah, so just start from.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So can I start? Okay. What have you found to be the most challenging issues you have encountered in providing support to your family members?
Well, the desire to want to fix and control them and not to allow them to suffer the consequences of their actions. I had to learn how to not do for an addicted loved one what they could do for themselves, and also changing my enabling to loving, and also learning to make my faith bigger than my fears by letting go.
Kind of going back to the topic of Naranon, which you were speaking of before, we understand that you've been heavily involved in it and in groups specifically where you are right now. We were just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about Naranon and the support that a lot of family members can expect to find if they attend a meeting, and what those meetings go like.
Sure. So in Naranon, you'll find others who understand, and they will not judge you or will not give you advice, but they'll share their experience, strength, and hope. And you will gain the support of its members and those that have experienced recovery, and then those that have suffered loss. And their stories will be similar, but not the same. And the beauty is you can take from Naranon what works for you, and you can leave the rest.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing about Naranon. So we also know that there's a lot of stigma surrounding substance use disorder because there's a lot of stereotypes, and people often think badly about people who have that. So how has that affected your son's ability to find treatment and the willingness to participate in it?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is not being heard or looked at as a dirty and not worth, a dirty person or not worth the effort. So the thought by others is that they suffer in order to, the belief is that they need to suffer in order to stop. And also the thought of this as being a choice. Sure, the choice to, use the first time was definitely theirs as far as taking their first pill, drink, fix, but the effect that the drugs have on their brain has caused them to sometimes temporary and permanent damage, which these, the programs can help give them, that can help them, generally, but there are many aspects of help that are needed. You can take away the drugs, but you have to deal with the underlying issues, why they used in the first place. And so in doing that, the addicted loved one has been, obviously suffers with triggers and the desire becomes very overwhelming. And so the treatment programs and the professionals that are available to support them are actually in triggered areas where these treatment programs are, which are definitely not safe. They're put back into the areas of where they were originally scoring their drugs from. So in doing that, you're putting them in a not safe area. And so I would like, to see treatment programs put back into communities that they are familiar with, and not having to go to areas where they were scoring drugs, where the dealers and drug users are lingering and triggering them to, obviously be unsuccessful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There are a lot of long-lasting effects of substance use disorder, and I do think that's a really good point.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's one of the big issues related to the substance use disorder, and we would like to educate more on how to deal with that. So, and to go on to deeper level of the last question, what do you believe we can all do to help break down that stigma?
By realizing that addicted loved ones are not bad people, but sick people. So these are sick people who need help, like any other sick person experiencing a sickness or a disease. And also by listen to them and to the addicted loved one, and not listening to answer them. And then educate others to help better understand how an addict brain works, and how you can recognize the signs, and also how your own behavior contributes as a friend or family member to their disease. So starting with yourself, I believe that's the most important first point in trying to help your addicted loved one, is starting with yourself.
Thank you. I love when you said listen to listen, not listen to speak, because that kind of puts the perspective in action.
Correct.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, treating someone badly just because of what they've been doing doesn't really help the fact at all. It just makes it worse. And trying to improve other people's perspective about this in a more respectful way is just going to benefit that altogether. And so now what we were wondering was, what advice do you have for families that need to find treatment to support a loved one, and where would they start to find this treatment?
So I would, again, start with yourself as the parent or the loved one of an addicted loved one. Don't wait for the addicted loved one to find treatment. You need to lead by example. You need to show the addicted loved one how to gain back control of their life. And by helping raise your addicted loved one's bottom by taking care of you, so they can climb out of their disease easier.
Yeah, I really like that. That was super straightforward, and I think a lot of people need to hear that, because it's just, people make it more complicated than it needs to be, and this was a really nice, simple way to put it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also definitely agree with that. So you also mentioned earlier that victims of substance use disorder don't usually know that they have it. So how would someone suffering from substance use disorder first recognize they have it and then seek help?
So by reaching out to like a trusted friend or a family member, a clergy, a counselor, a doctor or therapist would be a good place to start. Somebody that they feel they can trust.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too.
And going back to families helping their kid revolve around this problem, in your opinion, what specific steps can parents do to avoid having their child develop a substance use disorder?
Some of the steps that can be taken would be being aware of your medications, protecting and securing them into a locked cabinet or a locked safe. not only in your household, but being in another family member's home as well, when the addicted loved one is showing signs. Medication, very important to protect them from the triggers or the need to want to use and have access to. Also being when they are going to a physician for a treatment for pain, be more aware of the availability of medications and other options other than opiates, and also any other type of medication that could be addictive. There are alternatives out there for pain and also anxiety, various different mental health issues that have medications out there that are also addictive, not only opioids. And so, being aware of what's available out there, and it's going to set your one addicted loved one with addicted tendencies to set them up for success and not failure.
Yeah, I love the thought when you said parents should be aware of the medications, because we always focus on kids learning about the medications that might help in a substance use disorder, and not focusing on parents getting to learn more and how they can help kids. So this, I think, is an important part of this problem.
Yeah, Sanjana put exactly what I was thinking into words. But moving on a little bit, even though we have touched on what Narcan and naloxone were in previous videos, we just wanted you to explain what they were and how important they are, especially for families to keep them on hand and everywhere they go.
I am a firm believer in Narcan. I have used Narcan several times on not only my family members, but others in the community. And it is a life-saving medication. And I feel that I could be at any point, anywhere in this world. I always carry, not only on myself, on my personal items, but in my vehicle, as well as other family members have in their homes and have access to, because at any time you never know what you might be exposed to. You may not even be a substance abuser, and you could be sitting side by side with somebody using, and with the drugs that are available out there, it can be airborne and you could personally be affected yourself. I personally had experience when changing a bed, when I have, my addicted loved one was using a very strong medication called fentanyl. And when I went to change the bed, there was an open bag of fentanyl. And when I removed the sheets, the bag of fentanyl blew into the air and it was open. And I put myself in danger. And I thank God I was aware of a Narcan right there in our home, and was able to contact my husband in another location, let him know what had happened immediately, and had that available for any reason that I might have, obviously overdosed from an airborne type fentanyl overdose. Not necessarily am I a user, but that too could have saved my life. Luckily, I had the knowledge and knew exactly what it was that I needed to do as far as protecting myself immediately after something like that happening.
I would just like to thank you for interviewing with us today and sharing all the valuable information that might help the society and community be aware of this problem. And before we close, is there anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, there's some very important slogans that have helped me through this journey. And as a parent of a loved one that, suffers with addiction, when we come into this journey, you tend to feel guilty. You tend to feel like, what have you done? Where have you gone wrong? What is it that I could have done differently? But in Naranan and learning from the experience and strength from others, I gained certain knowledge, and one of the slogans that I maintain in my toolbox is that I did not cause this disease. I cannot control it, and I definitely cannot cure it, but I can contribute to it. And so, and also, and realizing that I was not the cause of this, was a big relief. And also realizing that my control was I was only able to control myself, not the addict. And then obviously identifying the fact that I wasn't going to cure it. And so also realizing how dangerous these drugs are and this disease, is that realizing there's another great slogan that I received from a therapist that I personally was going to help me through this journey was, a dead battery cannot charge a dead battery. And as the disease of addiction can kill not only possibly the addicted loved one, it can also kill you. Even though you may not have taken a pill or a drink or got a fix, it's important to stay charged as the loved one of an addict, because you can be there so that you can be there for the glory of the addicted loved one when they do find their success in their recovery. So you want to stay charged. So by doing that, you need to get the knowledge, the education, the courage, and the strength to get through this journey alive yourself as the loved one.
Yeah, it's really true. And I'll just bounce back in here, Deborah. I've come to know so many people around the country who have been dealing with what your family has for many years. And I've seen the damage it can do when they don't get the help that you're suggesting they get and the support they need. They get sick too in different ways. And it's really sad to see. So I really appreciate you sharing out and making your learnings available to others, and hopefully they'll take action themselves, which is what this interview is meant to do, of course. I'm going to share out again another slide that I think it's important to share. And basically it's a resource share. So just give me a second to get from the beginnings. Here we go. So this is a resource share. And I found the Partnership to End Addiction. I don't know if you use that resource, have been on it, Deborah, but that resource is great. There's actually, I think it's Monday through Friday only, but you parents can go get some, what I think is really sound advice from parent counselors. They've been through, what the person seeking help has been through already, and they have great advice too. So that's drugfree.org. And then Narnon, you've spoken a lot about today, and that is a great resource. We wanted to make sure it was available. So there's their website. If anybody has an immediate issue, an emergency situation, they can always go to this 24/7 available hotline for both suicide and substance use concerns. And then NIDA for Teens, I found that is a really good resource for our young people to access. And they have some really good interactive information there that speaks more from a scientific, how do drugs affect your brain kind of perspective. So that can be another really good resource. And then speaking about the fentanyl issue, which our organization is so concerned about right now, that's a primary area of focus for us. Getting naloxone out, which our organization does to community members, especially those who are at high risk, or otherwise just, families that have teens in their household. Song for Charlie is about it's a family that put this website up, and it's all around the fentanyl issue and the single pill that can kill literally a person that's laced with fentanyl. So we're really focused on fentanyl education, and that is a great resource that people can go on to also. And then NCAPDA, we're up on virtually all of the main social media sites. So you can see we've got Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and YouTube is where this interview will be posted, along with a lot of others that we've done, both educational and lived experience interviews. So we really welcome people to those other videos, and to contact us directly if they have any questions at all, or if they need help finding Narcan. So once again, I just can't thank you enough for being with us today, Deborah. It's been a really rich interview and lots of great information shared. So thank you very much. And thank you, youth ambassadors. So Sanjana, Riva, and Zainab, you did a great job in answering questions. We really appreciate all the work you put into making the interview happen. So with that, we'll sign off. Thank you all very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. 1 second, let me.
I think you're still recording.
I am trying to find again the low record stop. Here we go. And that's okay. Again, this can be